Man, I don't know if we can do this.
Huh?
I don't know if we're gonna make it. It's so steep. It's so hard. Just, it's good. I mean, it's good though, because it's real.
Why did you wake me up? Is something wrong?
No, I mean, we need to push ourselves past the limits of our bodies so we can free ourselves of the prisons of our minds.
You don't even know what that means. You read that in a book somewhere.
Whatever, man. I mean, don't you think it's like us and we're like the brotherhood of true adventure, and it's us and it's Columbus and Shackleton and Lewis and Clark and Chris Sharma.
You just said Lois and Clark.
Lewis and Clark, whatever. I mean, I think we just need to stay strong. Like, it's like we're the 10th Mountain Division and we're charging up the mountain, and we're gonna fight the Swiss, and we can do it, you know. And I think in the end, we'll made our mark. We've left our trace. You know, I think this climb could be a beacon of light to the mountaineering community.
I don't think the mountaineering community is going to care.
Whatever, man. I mean, this is why we're here. This is what we're here for. We can slay this beast together.
I'm leaving. I can't listen to this anymore.
You can't leave. We're in a snow cave. I mean,
I'm going home.
Jeremy, I'll die here without you.
I don't care.
Jeremy, come back.
During college, I took this big road trip out west, and it was the first time I'd ever seen really big mountains, and I was hooked. All I wanted to do was climb from that point on. But I live in Maryland, and we don't have really big mountains.
My name's Chad, and I'm a rock climber. I keep it real, keep it green, I climb local. Well, I know Jeremy from climbing back in college. We tried to start this climbing club together, but it never really took off. We didn't really have a lot of time. We climbed for like a year, then he got married, graduated, bought a house, sort of fell out of touch, you know? But I always kept him in mind in case something big came up.
Chad and I were always too broke to travel for climbing, so we spent our time exploring the mountains where we live. We had this shared fantasy that one day we would discover this world-class climb hidden in the mountains of Virginia and West Virginia. In 2008, I got a call from Chad. He said he had found that climb.
The Big Traverse is this massive climb in West Virginia. It's this cliff band that starts on the banks of the Potomac River and ascends all the way to the peak of North Fork Mountain. To put it in perspective, there's this pretty popular climbing area on the East Coast here. It's called Seneca Rocks. It's just down the road. Here's Seneca Rocks, drawn to scale next to Yosemite's El Cap. Seneca Rock's 300 feet, El Cap's 3,000 feet. I mean, people think El Cap is like super gnarly to the max, but it's kind of old news. But dude, much closer to home, there was a climb that was going to put El Cap in perspective. I mean, although this thing's only 100 to 200 feet anywhere along the wall, it's 7,000 feet from base to summit. I mean, that's the sickness. That's like taking it to the vertical limit. Oh snap, bigger than El Cap.
I went out to see the route firsthand with Chad, and it was big. I was pretty worried because I hadn't done a lot of climbing in the past few years, and I was really out of shape. Chad didn't seem to care though. He said that I just needed to train harder, and if I couldn't do it, then Alpine Jesse would. Who was Alpine Jesse?
Alpine Jesse is a great belayer. He's been my belayer ever since Jeremy graduated college. He doesn't really climb so much, but comes to belaying, he's the best there is.
Am I the best belayer in the world? I don't know if I believe stuff, claims like that, hyperbole. I think the question you need to ask yourself is there anybody better?
Alpine Jesse's a professional. He's a specialist. When that man holds your rope, you don't question why he doesn't climb. Nobody questioned why Leonardo took weeks to paint the Sistine Chapel. Belaying is Alpine's art, and you don't question an artist.
I mean, it's more than an art. It's life or death, man.
Turns out he was a pretty big deal in the climbing gym scene, and you ask anybody, they'd heard of Alpine Jesse.
That Alpine Jesse, he is so amazing. Oh, with those ropes.
I don't even know he's in a different stratosphere. And that guy...
Me? I would love to be belayed by Jesse.
I get a lot of press, for my achievements, and I found that belaying really helps me stay grounded because it's on the ground. What do I like so much about belaying? I think it would have to be the feeling of seeing the danger and literally being attached to it, but not having to fear the danger, although I can still live it.
Alpine Jesse's changed the belay game. It's different than it once was.
Chad and Jesse grew up in a small town on the outskirts of Shenandoah National Park. I remember the story Jesse's mom told us about how in the 5th grade they were on a jump roping team together.
They went on to win the state competition in jump roping. I don't know how this happened, but Jesse set it all up. He didn't jump, but he was instrumental. He turned the rope, and I always knew Jesse would go on to do something great, something big to help other people. And after he's done with this, I sincerely hope he'll find that great thing to do.
I started belaying Chad seriously about 6 years ago. It was up on Old Rag. He had this project up there that was sick. It was mind-numbingly epic. It was prehistoric. It was futuristic at the same time. And this thing was like Georgia O'Keeffe and MC Escher's love child. And it was stoic, it was sensuous, and it was mathematically unapproachable from any angle. And this guy wanted to get on the thing. He was mad, man. He was crazy. It was dangerous. It was run out. It was triple XL. But he just had that drive, man. Sad thing was, nobody would belay him. They were too scared. Till I stepped up and got it done. Someone had to. It was me. First ascent, lead belay. Namaste.
I knew this was going to be probably the world's hardest climb, so I needed to train to be the world's hardest man. So I ran hard in the mountains. It wasn't enough though. I kept passing these boulders and getting distracted, and I had to climb them. And then I thought, what's wrong with that? I'm gonna run and climb boulders. That's better training anyways. And that's what I did.
I'm going fast, going slow. Which way I'm headed, I'll never know. I got to keep on moving my way. Nothing but the rising time, hanging on the horizon line. I'm mumbling to myself and the highway.
You know, I wasn't really sure what Jeremy and Jesse were doing for training. They said they were training hard, but I had my doubts.
Running from your memory, hiding in the rain from the pain. Oh, these days it's all the same.
Training for climbing's about pain. It's about suffering. When your thighs are burning, you just keep running. When your fingers are bleeding, you take a second and you cauterize the wounds on the fires of your passion. As good as my training was, everybody runs. Everybody boulders. But if I was going to really take my place in climbing history, I needed to take it to the next level, the über level. I needed to up level the level of my level above the levels that was the other levels to take it to the next level.
Fast, going slow. Which way I'm headed, I'll never know. I got to take that spin. I gotta live, gotta learn. Everybody gets one turn. You know you got to pay to win. Gotta live, gotta learn. Everybody gets one turn. You know you got to pay to win.
All right, what am I bringing on the climb? Well, I got to go light. I'm going to have your basics, you know. I'm going to have my climbing shoes. I'm going to have my approach shoes. I'm going to have,
Yeah, you just don't need much for a traverse. It's just you, the wall, some chalk bag.
you know, there's no debating, do I take this one, do I take that one? You got to take them all. You never know how a climb is going to go.
You know, just some bird beaks, bashes, belay devices, ropes, runners, slings, quick draws, carabiners, cams, stoppers, micro nuts, brassies, hexes, tricams, ball nuts.
But in general, I'm going really light. So, no, am I taking too much stuff? Do I think I'm taking unnecessary equipment? Certainly not. Certainly not.
Communicating on a big rock climb can be really hard. There can be wind, sometimes you can't see your partner, but communicating with a rock climber, that's really hard.
Real quick, gotta spray some beta about my new sick V-hard boulder project in the DOA. Starts off this super gnar sit start heel toe and these two Mankey credit card crimpers under a Mondo roof. So you just crank up into this chicken wing gas stone pinch at full extension and you can just barely foot dyno to a heinous jib. Once you get your foot established, iron cross out to this backhand tips mailbox slot and get set up for the huck to the lip. From there, it's at all points off dyno to this double open hand sloper, and it'd be moderately chill, except midair you gotta get your mind right to stick this tension toe scum on a RERP, maybe bird beak size seam, otherwise you never control the swing. Next, you press out the nasty mantle till you can do this delicate pop to a mono pocket in the dihedral. If that doesn't crux you out, start the undercling highball horror show. Just cruise the line through the refrigerator Jenga jug haul through the tombstone top out and choo choo, you're on the Send train to Send town. Anyway, it's amazing. I mean, you should totally jump on it. It's not that hard. I mean, it totally goes and it's super classic.
Get it. Want it. Come on. Get it up.
Falling.
One of the things I was most concerned about going into the traverse was falling. Normally when you fall on a rock climb, you fall straight down. And as long as you place the right gear, you're usually pretty safe.
Watch me, Jesse. Falling.
When you fall when you're climbing sideways, when you're traversing, you're going to take a big swinging fall. Chad was having some trouble understanding this, so I built him this model to hopefully clear things up. Over here you can see that we have climber Chad, and down here we have belayer Jeremy. If climber Chad falls right now, he's going to take a big swing, and watch what happens. Oh, you see how that rope just runs back and forth on that sharp edge? That's how ropes get cut.
Well, I didn't really believe Jeremy's theory on this swinging fall thing, so I went down to Summersville Lake and tested it out myself. And
I think the rope hit him in the face, dude.
turns out Jeremy was right. Got me, Jesse. All right, take. All right, roll. Slow, slow, slow. Slow, 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 slow.
I figured it would take us a minimum of a week to do the traverse, but Chad had this notion that we would knock it out in 2 or 3 days. It should come as no surprise then that Jesse's fastest wasn't fast enough for Chad, and it was only a matter of time.
Oh, that's it. That's it. You're out. I'm sorry, bro. You gotta go.
You're sorry.
You're too slow.
You're sorry, dude. You're
You know,
sorry when you like steal someone's
you're out.
socks.
All right.
You're not sorry when you take them off
you're out.
a lifetime.
This climb is way out of your league.
What?
I'm sorry. I threw Jesse off the climb because he was slow.
Come on, Chad. What the hell, man? Dude.
Did I feel bad about it? No. I had 2 belayers. I mean, you wouldn't start an ice climb without 2 ice axes. What if you dropped one? I had to drop Jesse.
I can't say I was shocked that Chad kicked Jesse off the climb. I think that tension had been developing for a while. But I was kind of shocked that it happened so quickly. We had originally planned that Jesse and I would camp on top of the cliff, and at the end of each day, we would move our camp to the point where we had stopped climbing. This would allow Chad to sleep in a hammock on the side of the cliff, which he felt was the only way to preserve the purity of the climb. Now I was going to have to carry all of that gear by myself each evening, as well as bring Chad his equipment. I guess you could say I was kind of like Chad Sherpa. By the end of the second day, I was ready to quit. I had made the mistake of wearing shorts, and the mountain laurel was really starting to take a toll. I was sweaty and dirty, and I desperately wanted to get cleaned up. There was this amazing swimming hole at the bottom of the mountain, and I figured it could solve all my problems. I only hoped I could get back before Chad noticed.
You know, Jeremy's a pretty good partner because he's working really hard at this. And
Jeremy down there?
Jeremy's sweating up here on top of the cliff. What do you mean? I don't see Jeremy down there. I see two girls.
I thought I saw him.
No. Anyways, Jeremy's a pretty good partner because he's working hard. I mean, we couldn't have the purist style because he's camping on top, and I understand that. What the heck, Jeremy? What? Unbelievable.
I cannot believe I caught Jeremy swimming with girls, disrupting the purity of the line when we were supposed to be suffering together. I'd have kicked him off in a second, but I'd already kicked off Jesse, and I needed a belayer.
Those girls, however nice they may be, they degrade this climb. I mean, how can we focus on the level of climbing accomplishment that we are about to achieve when there are women involved?
Yeah, good morning. What's up?
Yeah, I need some water down here for the day and some food and a pair of shorts.
Why do you need a pair of shorts?
I pooped my pants.
Chocolate covered espresso beans. That morning I had them. It could have been the tuna the night before, but it wasn't going to be solid. So I get out of my hammock, and it's like 10 times worse. It's like, dude, right now you got the call, and you answer the call when the call comes. So I start jugging up the line, and I'm hauling. There's a ledge, and it's not fast enough. But I get to the ledge, and I got those little tiny buckles on my harness, and they're so hard to get undone. And
I pooped my pants.
the price of dedication is pooping your pants.
That afternoon, the weather took a turn for the worse. Initially, we thought it was just an afternoon thunderstorm and that it would blow over. But it turns out it was part of a 2-day storm that stretched all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. I think at first Chad contemplated staying on the wall, but he came to a decision pretty quickly that it was time to go home. So that's what we did. We left our camp set up and stashed all of our gear and went home and had a big party at Chad's house.
I want to be absolutely clear about this. I stayed on the wall the whole time. The whole time.
You know, even at the time, I remember thinking, even if we don't finish this traverse, this has still all been worth it. During our training, we discovered all kinds of amazing rock and ice that nobody knew about. I'll be the first to admit that I used to believe you had to live out west or travel to other countries to have cool adventures, but you can have them right here at home. You just have to look for them.
You think you'll find some mountains in western Colorado, 50 weeks of snowy peaks is where you're gonna be. But babe, the Rocky Mountains are gradually eroding. The hills, of course, are nothing more than Blue Ridge wannabe. A turkey on its belly, a chicken on its back. Any way you look at it, you'll find her on the map. She revels in the seasons, shakes hands with the north, hugs the land of Dixie while dancing on the porch. You think that autumns in New England are the greatest of them all, but give me sweet Virginia for the fireworks of fall. The prettiest October in all the 50 states. Just drive up to the skyline, park the car and wait. So grow up, Colorado, excuse me, Tennessee. If you don't mind, North Carolina is where I wanna be. When you're talking home, you mean the old Dominion, just southeast of heaven to the surf and the hills. She's the best of 13 sisters and 37 more. Sweet, sweet Virginia always keeps an open door. They're fiddling down in Galax, picking up in Floyd, and in the land of Patsy Cline, there's songs you can't avoid. When you're walking after midnight, I fall to pieces too. I'm crazy back in baby's arms with sweet dreams of you. They're sailing down in Norfolk and skiing up in Bryce, climbing up the devil's stairs against the ranger's advice. They're harvesting in Loudon to Shenandoah winds, and in the land near Washington they're rooting for the skins.
Fight for old D.C.
So grow up, Colorado, excuse me, Tennessee. If you don't mind, North Carolina is where I wanna be. When you're talking home, you mean the old Dominion, just southeast of heaven to the surf and the hills. She's the best of 13 sisters and 37 more. Sweet, sweet Virginia always keeps an open door.
After a couple of days, the sun came back out, and we headed back out to the Traverse. Even though the rock had dried out, the climbing was still pretty treacherous. Most everything was covered in lichen, and there were loose blocks everywhere. At the end of the day, we finally reached the upper section of the ridge, and for the first time, we could see the summit. That night, our buddy Marshall came up to visit, and it was great. He brought pizza with him, and I just loved having someone to talk to. I barely ever got to talk to Chad because he was halfway down the cliff. I often wondered what he did down there at night.
So, I've been out here a couple of nights, and it rained, and Jeremy went home, and I endured, keeping purest in line. And I had a lot of time to myself, and I wrote a poem, which is entitled Friends in High Places, and I'd like to share it with you. Butterfly, flutter by, the sun and I, this wall, this life, I traverse the strife. I must pause for a bit to contemplate climbing's vertical limit. Long I've wandered these ranges, blue eyes scanning blue horizons. Flying squirrels cuddle up next to me, we asleep in the hollow of a tree. Deep tissue massage in my back provided by my pillow, the climbing rack. Here's everything I need, the water drip to my lip, the acorn's bittersweet meat. Yet still, the climb beckons me. I roused from mad slope or sick grimping in my dream, and the squirrel takes flight from our great height. Beauty of the night.
I felt really bad about what happened to Jesse. Chad had been adamant that he had done nothing wrong, that the climb always comes first. But I had been really worried. I had been calling Jesse and leaving messages, but I still hadn't heard anything back.
Something I did in my past.
By the end of the day, the summit was close. We had been climbing a lot faster, and we settled in thinking it would be our last night on the climb. Later that evening, Jesse finally called. We didn't talk for long, and I didn't tell this to Chad right away, but Jesse wanted him to know that he was going to Summersville Lake.
Summersville Lake was like the best deepwater soloing spot east of Thailand, west of Spain. And I say was because the Army Corps of Engineers shut it down, man. They decided that people were having too much fun.
Whoa! Whoa! Ah, what? Woo! Oh my God. Oh! Got it.
So, because people were having too much fun, the man started imposing fines and like looming jail time, and it was ridiculous. I mean, I had so many first ascents waiting down there. I mean, I guess that's how you take the wild and wonderful out of West Virginia.
Come on, dude, do something cool.
Just wasn't worth it anymore.
When Chad found out that Alpine Jesse went to Summersville, I think he imagined the worst. The truth is, I don't think we'll ever know what happened down there. We can only guess at what Jesse was thinking, but that night that he called me on the Traverse was the last time we ever spoke.
So I got kicked off the Traverse by Chad, and it is just one of my darkest days, man. The avalanche of rejection that buried me when I got to the bottom was overwhelming. So after I climbed out of that hole, I figured I needed to do something I could stand on my own. So I decided to come down here to Summersville Lake and do the most epic, sick traverse ever. As you can see, there's beautiful cliffs everywhere. They run unbroken for miles, and I'm going to be traversing them at 6 feet above the water. And you might think, 6 feet, why would I only go 6 feet? Well, that's because the Corps of Engineers has determined that this is the safe height at which, if you were to fall into the water, you could potentially survive. Any height greater than this, and it's anybody's guess, it's just in God's hands. So I'm going to keep it safe, but I'm going for the distance, true Alpine style. I'm going to be racked up, geared out, ice axes in tow. I'm going to be doing some dry tooling. And I just hope when Chad and Jeremy get down from that little traverse and they see the cover of the mags, that they get a little tear in their heart.
On the last day of the climb, Chad and I got separated. We had reached the end of the rock after only about 3 pitches, and it should have been this happy moment, which for me it was. I was thrilled to be off of the climb. But Chad was upset to the point of tears. I think he had expected the rock to run unbroken all the way to the summit, and it almost did. It ends about 1/8 of a mile shy, and it's a pretty simple matter of just hopping up on the ridge and walking up to the summit, but Chad wouldn't do it. He felt that the purest line had to stay on rock, so after a year of training and 6 days on the wall together, we each headed to the summit alone. When I got to the summit, there was no sign of Chad. He showed up about half an hour later, and whatever line he had climbed led to a false summit that was only about 20 yards from where I was, but it was about 2 feet lower, and we were separated by this huge chasm.
Jeremy, what are you doing over there, man?
This is the summit.
No, this is the summit.
Yeah, this is definitely the summit. There's a benchmark right over there.
This is clearly higher.
Turns out that the purest line led to a false summit. So to get to the true summit, a true climber walks the slack line. I mean, that's just the way it's done.
I tried to explain to Chad that the way I had come up was much easier, but he wouldn't hear of it.
No, but this will be better. This is the climber's way.
No, it isn't. There's a climber's path right down there that you can walk.
No. The climbers walk the slack line. That's the way that everybody does it. Yeah.
I'd like to announce my retirement from rock climbing. I only wish Jesse could be here.
When I met you, my heart knew that one day I would hold you. But my head said, boy, this can never be. 'Cause in my eyes you...
In the weeks that followed the traverse, it became pretty clear that Alpine Jesse had not drowned at Summersville Lake, that he was alive and well, and was just avoiding Chad and myself. This wasn't clear to Chad, however. He became convinced that Alpine Jesse had drowned, and he felt that it was important we do something to remember him.
So I didn't die down at Summersville. I just went down there, traversed a little, and then I left, and, well, it's another story, but I heard Chad and Jeremy had a funeral for me on top of the traverse, that they hiked back up there and burnt some of my stuff as a way to say goodbye to me. I mean, what is he thinking?
Tragedy of Alpine Jesse's death was that he didn't die doing what he loved. He wasn't a big alpine free traverser. He wasn't even really called to climb at all. All he ever wanted was to be the world's best belayer. I would have given anything to help him pursue that dream, but some things aren't meant to be.
I guess he thinks that by my fictional death he's created some importance for the climb. I mean, I heard he named it after me. He named the climb Almost Alpine. I got kicked off after the first pitch, man.
Lovely lady, come and let me see you smile. Hold me close and talk with me a while. Come what may, we will see it through. Lovely lady, that's all I ask of you.
So what I realized after coming back from the traverse with Chad and the traverse down at Summersville that I did is that I don't want to climb, man. I mean, who would want to be a climber? I just want to belay, you know? It makes me happy. It's who I am.
The next question. Yeah, and I want
the end of the line. Okay.
Old school, new school, futurism.
You do. You feel like you're